The silence after the fall. The cold expanse of space had always felt infinite. Endless stars twinkling in the distance, each one holding its own mysteries. Humanity had spent centuries reaching out into the vastness, expanding colonies on distant planets, seeking knowledge, resources, and new opportunities. But even with all the technology and ambition, no one could prepare for what was about to come. One by one, human colonies across the galaxy went silent. First, it was just a few signals lost here and there, small glitches in the network. But then, entire colonies vanished in an instant. The reports came through, one after another, a barrage of devastating news. Entire settlements were wiped out, no signs of struggle, no distress signals, just silence. And the most horrifying part? No one knew who or what was behind it. The attacks didn't come from any known alien force, no rival factions, no hostile armies, just a wave of destruction, swift and absolute. No survivors, no explanations. Humanity, always resilient and quick to react, scrambled to make sense of the disaster. A unified council of the world's best minds gathered, feverishly working to uncover what had happened. But every answer seemed to lead to more questions. There were no clues, no trace of the attackers. It was as though the universe itself had wiped the colonies off the map. Weeks passed, and the pressure to respond grew. Panic began to spread among the surviving colonies. Who could have done this? Why hadn't they been warned? And most importantly, how could they stop it from happening again? The humans had always prided themselves on their resourcefulness, but nothing had prepared them for this. Their enemies, whoever they were, had shown them how small and fragile they truly were in the grand scheme of the universe. But even in the darkest times, the spark of human ingenuity never faltered. Leaders across the remaining colonies pushed for a response, anything to reclaim their safety, their peace, their future. And then, just when it seemed like hope might be lost, an unexpected transmission came through the deep space channels. It was a message, but not from any human. The words were simple, yet chilling. You attacked human colonies? Congratulations, you just awakened the dragons. A collective shiver ran down the spines of those who received the message. What could this possibly mean? Who were the dragons? And what had humans done to awaken them? Theories began to surface, some more outlandish than others. Perhaps it was a new alien race, one far more powerful than anything humanity had ever encountered. Or maybe it was some forgotten ancient species, one that had been in hibernation for eons, waiting for the right moment to strike. But one thing was certain, this was no ordinary enemy. The remaining colonies scrambled to prepare. A sense of urgency took hold as humanity mobilized for the fight of their lives. They had to figure out who the dragons were, what their motivations were, and most importantly, how to survive. They couldn't just sit and wait for the next attack to wipe them out. It was time to face whatever was coming head-on. The universe was far from friendly, and humanity had just realized they were playing a much bigger game than they had ever anticipated. Unveiling the threat. The silence that followed the cryptic message was suffocating. It hung in the air of every command room, every makeshift war council, and every home that had once been filled with the hum of everyday life. People were afraid, but more than that, they were confused. The entire human race had just been thrown into a fight it hadn't expected, with an enemy they didn't understand. The galaxy was vast, and the known universe was filled with countless civilizations, but the concept of dragons was a far cry from any intelligent species humanity had ever encountered. The message had sparked a wave of frantic speculation. Who were these dragons? What did the message mean? Was it a metaphor, or was it literal? Was this a warning? A challenge? Or perhaps a promise of annihilation? Some argued it was just a psychological tactic, a way to unnerve humanity into submission. But others knew better. They had seen the devastation firsthand, the wiped-out colonies, the sudden disappearance of entire cities and populations. The human response began to take shape, but it wasn't going to be easy. At the core of humanity's efforts to understand the enemy was Captain Mira Aldrin. A seasoned officer in the colonial defense forces, Mira was one of the few people who had been on the front lines during the first wave of attacks. She had seen what had happened to those colonies, and she was more determined than anyone to find out who was behind the assault. Mira was a survivor, and she wasn't going to let fear cloud her judgment. "We have to think beyond conventional tactics," Mira told her team of officers and scientists. "We need to know what we're up against before we even think about retaliation. We need intelligence. We need more than just a name. We need to know everything about these so-called dragons." Her words were met with solemn nods from the assembled crew, but everyone knew that time was not on their side. There was an urgency in the air, a tension that only came when humanity was on the brink of extinction. In the days that followed, a secret research project was launched. A fleet of deep space probes was sent out to the last known coordinates of the attacked colonies, trying to recover any scrap of data or technology that could shed light on the unknown attackers. The mission was dangerous. They had no idea what awaited them. The ships were equipped with the best shielding humanity could afford, but that didn't stop the team from worrying about the risks. No one knew who these dragons were or what they were capable of. Meanwhile, Mira took charge of another task, making contact with the various alien species humanity had established tentative relationships with over the years. The galaxy, as vast as it was, had never been particularly welcoming to humans, but over time, humans had managed to carve out a few allies. The most prominent of these was the Vornak, a technologically advanced, reptilian species with whom humanity had once brokered a peace agreement. If anyone had information on the dragons, it would be them. After several tense days, Mira was granted an audience with the Vornak ambassador, Captain Rigger. His towering form and intimidating presence were well known to humans, but Mira had learned to trust him over the years. Rigger had always been a staunch ally of humanity, and she hoped that trust would carry through now, in the face of this new and terrifying threat. "We are aware of the message," Rigger said, his voice low and measured. "And we know the dragons. Or at least, we know of them. You are not the first to awaken them." Mira felt a chill run down her spine. "What do you mean? These dragons, they've been here before?" Rigger nodded grimly. "Yes. The dragons are ancient, older than the stars themselves. They were once rulers of the galaxy, their power unmatched. But something happened to them, a cataclysmic event that caused them to retreat into deep space. They have been in hibernation for millennia. But they never truly left." Myra's mind raced. "And now they're back?" Rigger's eyes glowed faintly, his expression darkening. "Yes. But they are not what you think. These dragons are not creatures of fire and flight. They are beings of energy, pure and unyielding. Their power comes not from physical strength, but from the manipulation of the very fabric of space itself. They are the harbingers of destruction, but their motives are different from anything you might expect." Mira absorbed his words carefully. Energy-based beings? This was something entirely new. But it wasn't just the technology or the tactics that set the dragons apart. It was their history, a history of a civilization that had once ruled the galaxy, a history that humanity could not even begin to comprehend. The idea that these dragons could manipulate space itself, bend time, warp gravity, was enough to make any seasoned officer like Mira hesitate. How could humanity stand against an enemy like that? "The question is," Rigger continued, "what exactly did you do to awaken them? They have remained dormant for so long. It's not the usual way they operate. You may have made them angry, or you may have triggered something that can't be undone." Mira clenched her fists. "Then we need to find out what it is, and fast. Because if these dragons are as powerful as you say, and if they've already begun to retaliate, there may not be much time left for us." Rigger paused, his gaze unwavering. "There is something else you should know. There is a prophecy among my people. It speaks of the awakening, when the dragons return to reclaim their place in the galaxy. It is said that only a species with a burning will to survive can oppose them. You humans, you are that species. Myra's heart pounded. The Vornak had always been a proud race, full of wisdom and strength, but even they seemed to fear these dragons. And now, it was humanity's turn to face them, to fight for survival. With nothing but their ingenuity and unyielding spirit, humanity had to face an ancient terror, one that threatened to wipe out everything they had fought so hard to build. The countdown had begun. The universe was about to learn whether humanity had what it took to stand against the dragons, or whether it would fall into the shadows of history, the gathering storm. Mira Aldrin's thoughts were clouded with the enormity of what had been revealed to her. The dragons, energy beings capable of manipulating the very fabric of space itself, had been dormant for millennia. And now they were awake. As much as she had hoped that Rigger's warning was a misunderstanding, something told her deep inside that it wasn't. Humanity had indeed stirred the hornet's nest, and the venom of the dragons was already beginning to spread. The destruction of the colonies had only been the beginning. If Mira couldn't figure out how to stop them, it would be the end for humanity. Her mind raced through the possibilities as she sat in the war room aboard the Perseverance, a sleek command ship stationed at the edge of the human colonies. Her crew, the finest humanity had to offer, looked to her for guidance, but Mira herself didn't have the answers. The Vornak had warned her of the dragon's immense power, but they had also spoken of a prophecy, one that suggested humanity was the key to opposing them. But how? What could they do against creatures so ancient, so powerful? We need a plan, Mira said, addressing the team. The tension in the room was palpable, and every person there understood the gravity of their mission. We've already lost too much. But we're not going to lose everything. We need to fight back, and we need to know what we're dealing with before we make any moves. One of her top engineers, Lieutenant Kieran, a brilliant mind with an insatiable curiosity, stepped forward. Captain, I've been running simulations based on the data we gathered from the colonies. I know we don't have much to work with, but there's one thing we can be sure of, these dragons aren't going to go away quietly. They've been around for longer than any of us can comprehend. But that also means they have weaknesses. Mira looked at Kieran, her eyes narrowing. Weaknesses? Are you saying that even these ancient energy beings have vulnerabilities? Kieran nodded. Yes, Captain. From what we understand, these dragons are energy-based life forms. They don't have physical bodies in the same way we do. Their power comes from manipulating energy at a cosmic scale. Gravity, light, matter itself. But all that energy needs to be contained in some way. If we can find a way to disrupt their energy sources or weaken the fields they control, we might be able to put up a fight. The idea of fighting energy beings with advanced technology was daunting, but Mira couldn't dismiss it. Kieran's research had always been on the cutting edge, and if anyone could uncover a weakness in the dragon's vast power, it was him. We've got a long way to go before we're ready to take them on, Mira said, tapping her fingers on the table. But if there's a way to stop them, we need to find it. I'll call a meeting with the other colony leaders. We need to form a united front, and fast. The days that followed were filled with frantic activity. Communication with the other colonies was tense, as they all scrambled to assess the threat. Some colonies were in chaos, their leadership fractured by the sudden, unexplained attacks. Others had already started preparing their defenses, but no one had concrete answers on how to defeat an enemy as overwhelming as the dragons. It was then that Mira made a risky decision, one that could either save humanity or doom them all. She reached out to the Vornak again, requesting a deeper alliance. The Vornak had knowledge that no one else in the galaxy had, knowledge of ancient technologies, ancient beings, and forgotten histories. If anyone could help humanity find a way to defeat the dragons, it would be them. Captain Rigger agreed to meet with Mira once more, though he warned her that his people were wary of becoming too involved in human affairs. The Vornak had always been cautious with outsiders, especially when it came to matters of galactic power. Still, Mira pressed him. Rigor, I know your people have ancient knowledge. I'm asking you to share it with us. We need everything you know about these dragons. If we're going to survive, we can't do it alone. Rigor's eyes glowed faintly in the dimly lit room. I'll help, Mira. But know this, if the dragons are truly awakened, this is more than just a fight for your colonies. This is a battle for the entire galaxy. And if you fail, you won't just lose your home, you'll lose everything. The dragons were once the rulers of this galaxy. Their return means that the balance of power will shift in ways no one can predict. Mira nodded. We understand the stakes. But we can't afford to wait any longer. The longer we wait, the more colonies will fall. We need to strike first. Rigor studied her carefully. Very well. We have a weapon, a relic from a time before the dragon's fall. It is a device known as the Star Forge, a powerful tool that can manipulate energy on a scale that may allow you to counter the dragon's power. But it's not just any weapon. It's a tool of creation, not destruction. Its purpose is to forge new stars, to mold the very energy of the universe itself. But in the right hands, it could be used to disrupt the dragon's energy fields. Myra's heart raced. The idea of wielding such a powerful device was both exhilarating and terrifying. Could humanity truly control something that powerful? Could they use it to stop the dragons? There's a catch, though, Rigor continued. The Star Forge requires a unique energy source, something called the Heart of the Void. It's a rare element, found only in the deepest reaches of space. It's dangerous to retrieve, and even more dangerous to wield. But if you can get it, and if you can learn to harness the Star Forge, you may stand a chance. Myra's mind was spinning. The Heart of the Void? A rare, dangerous element that could give them a fighting chance against the dragons? This was the kind of challenge humanity thrived on. We'll get it, Mira said firmly. We'll find the Heart of the Void, and we'll use the Star Forge. We'll stop the dragons, no matter what it takes. As she left the meeting with Rigor, Mira knew they were about to embark on a mission that could either save or doom them all. The Heart of the Void was their only hope, and they had no time to waste. The clock was ticking, and the storm that was gathering in the galaxy was about to unleash. Humanity's survival hung in the balance. Into the abyss. Mira Aldrin stood on the bridge of the Perseverance, staring at the star map flickering before her. The galaxy was vast, its distances measured not just in light years but in untold challenges. The mission she had just set in motion was unlike any humanity had ever faced before. To retrieve the Heart of the Void, a rare and volatile element needed to power the Star Forge, her crew would have to journey deeper into space than they had ever gone, past the fringes of known space, into the uncharted territories where few had dared to tread. The Heart of the Void was located within a sector known as the Rift, an area of space so treacherous that it had been largely ignored by galactic explorers and traders alike. The Rift was a swirling vortex of energy, constantly shifting, where gravity wells and temporal anomalies made navigation a nightmare. It was a place where even the most advanced technology could fail without warning, and where many had vanished without a trace. Myra's first priority was to ensure her crew was ready. They had little time, and the dangers ahead were unlike anything they had encountered. She had gathered the best minds from every corner of humanity's colonies, engineers, scientists, soldiers, and strategists. Each person knew the stakes, and each person was willing to risk their life for the survival of humanity. We're heading into the Rift, Mira addressed her crew as they gathered for a final briefing. The Heart of the Void lies within it. We don't know what we'll face, but we do know this: if we succeed, we have a chance to stop the dragons. If we fail, everything we know, everything we've worked for, could be lost forever. The crew stood in silent solidarity, their faces set with determination. They had seen the devastation that had already been wrought by the dragons, and they knew that this mission was humanity's last hope. Lieutenant Kieran, Mira called, turning to the chief engineer. How are we looking with the modifications to the ship? The rift won't be kind to our systems. Kieran's eyes gleamed with a mixture of excitement and apprehension. We've reinforced the Perseverance's hull with quantum stabilizers, Captain. The rift's gravity wells and anomalies could tear us apart if we don't have the right shielding. But with these adjustments, I believe we can navigate it safely, provided we don't push the ship beyond its limits. Mira nodded. And the crew? Are they ready for what we're about to face? They're ready, Kieran said confidently. We've trained for every contingency. But the rift is unpredictable. We'll need to stay sharp. Myra's gaze turned to the tactical officer, Commander Zane. Zane, have you made contact with the rest of the fleet? Are they standing by? Zane's jaw was set. The rest of the colonies are on high alert, Captain. We've rallied what we could, but everyone's focus is on defense right now. They understand what we're doing, but we can't count on reinforcements if things go wrong. Mira sighed. She had hoped for more support, but the situation was dire. This mission was too critical to delay. It had to be done now. Then it's settled, she said, looking around at her crew. We leave in 1 hour. Get ready. The next hour was a blur of activity as the Perseverance's engines roared to life. The ship, once a symbol of exploration and hope, now felt like a lifeline to the future. Mira watched as the planet they were leaving behind grew smaller, its surface dotted with the remnants of cities that had once thrived. She thought of the colonies that had fallen and the people who had perished in the dragon's wake. Every life lost was a weight on her shoulders, and with each passing minute, that weight grew heavier. As the Perseverance pushed away from the familiar orbit of their home system, the crew could feel the oppressive tension building. They were venturing into the unknown. There were no guarantees, no assurances of survival. But Mira knew they had no other choice. The journey to the rift was long, and the silence on the ship was broken only by the hum of the engines and the occasional crackle of the comm systems. The crew remained focused, their minds fixed on the mission ahead. They knew that each second brought them closer to the most dangerous part of their journey. Finally, after days of travel, the ship entered the outskirts of the rift. The stars ahead began to warp, their light bending and twisting as the gravitational forces of the rift pulled at the ship. The hull groaned as the ship adjusted to the intense pressure, but the Perseverance held steady. Brace yourselves, Kieran's voice crackled over the intercom. We're entering the heart of the rift. Hold on tight. The crew braced themselves as the ship was tossed and turned by the unpredictable forces of the rift. The stars outside seemed to stretch and pulse, the light becoming distorted as if reality itself were being twisted. Mira gripped the armrest of her seat, her eyes fixed on the view outside. There was something eerie about the rift, it felt alive, as if it were a living entity, watching them as they passed through. As they moved deeper into the rift, the ship's sensors began to malfunction, their readings bouncing wildly as they encountered areas of intense radiation. The energy fluctuations from the rift were unlike anything they had ever encountered. Mira glanced at Kieran, who was working feverishly to keep the ship's systems online. We're losing power to the main thrusters. Kieran shouted. If we don't get the stabilizers back online, we'll be caught in the gravitational pull. Myra's heart raced. Can we fix it? I'm doing everything I can, Kieran said, his voice strained. But if we don't regain control, we'll be dragged into the core of the rift, and it'll be over for all of us. The crew's faces tightened in fear, but Mira refused to give in to panic. She couldn't afford to. They had come too far to turn back now. Hold on, she commanded, her voice firm. We're not giving up. With a final burst of effort, Kieran managed to stabilize the ship's power. The Perseverance shuddered, its engines roaring back to life as they fought against the forces trying to pull them apart. The crew breathed a collective sigh of relief, but they knew this was only the beginning. The true dangers of the rift awaited them deeper still. And ahead, in the heart of this chaos, lay the heart of the void, waiting to be claimed. The descent into darkness. The tension aboard the Perseverance was palpable. The ship had stabilized, but Mira and her crew knew they were far from safe. The rift was no place for the faint-hearted, and its unpredictable nature made every second feel like an eternity. The stars had long ceased to shine with their usual brilliance, replaced instead by flickering, distorted flashes that were both mesmerizing and terrifying. As they descended further into the rift's heart, Mira couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching them. "Captain, we've entered the most dangerous part of the rift," Lieutenant Kieran reported from the engineering station. "The energy signatures are spiking beyond what our systems are rated for. We'll have to push the ship's systems to the limit if we want to make it through. We're in uncharted territory." Myra's gaze fixed on the viewscreen as they navigated the chaotic maelstrom of energy. It was like trying to sail a ship through a storm made of raw cosmic power. Gravity wells distorted space around them, creating massive ripples in the fabric of reality. Each movement felt like a gamble, and the Perseverance could easily be torn apart by the invisible forces at play. "Understood," Mira said, her voice steady but filled with determination. "Keep pushing forward, Kieran. We have no other choice. We need to find the heart of the void, and we need to find it now." The crew continued their journey deeper into the rift, their nerves on edge as the ship creaked under the strain. Mira could see the worry in their faces, but she also saw something else, resolve. They were all in this together, and they would fight to the end, no matter the odds. Days passed as they moved through the heart of the rift, their course marked only by the ever-changing patterns of light and shadow outside. Time had lost all meaning in this chaotic space. They were no longer sure whether they were moving forward or being pulled into the depths of the rift by forces beyond their understanding. The ship's systems continued to struggle, but Kieran and his team kept them running, making adjustments on the fly as they encountered new anomalies. "We're approaching a pocket of dense energy," Kieran warned. "This could be it, the location of the heart of the void. But we need to move fast. If we linger here too long, the ship won't be able to withstand the strain." Myra's pulse quickened. They had come so far. They couldn't stop now. "Prepare for descent," she ordered. "Everyone, brace yourselves." The ship descended through the pocket of energy, its shields glowing brightly as they pushed through the turbulent waves of raw cosmic power. The strain on the Perseverance was becoming unbearable. The hull groaned, and the lights flickered. Mira could see the sweat on her crew's brows, their hands trembling as they fought to keep the ship intact. Suddenly, the ship's sensors went haywire. A blinding light filled the cockpit as a massive gravitational wave tore through the space ahead. Myra's heart skipped a beat as she saw the distortion ripple outward, a shockwave that threatened to obliterate everything in its path. "Full power to shields," she shouted, gripping her seat as the ship was jolted violently. The force of the wave slammed into them, rattling the ship to its core. For a moment, Mira thought they were done for, that they would be swallowed up by the void itself. But then, just as suddenly as it had begun, the wave passed. The Perseverance lurched forward, its shields barely holding up against the strain. They had survived, for now. "We've made it," Kieran said, his voice strained but filled with awe. "I'm detecting the heart of the void. It's in the center of a massive energy nexus ahead. But it's not just any energy signature, it's a pulsating core of unimaginable power." Mira nodded, her mind racing. They had come this far, but the real challenge was just beginning. The heart of the void was said to be more than just an element, it was a living thing, a force of nature that could either be harnessed for unimaginable power or destroy everything in its wake. "Prepare for landing," Mira ordered. "We don't know what's waiting for us down there. Be ready for anything." The ship continued its descent, breaking through layers of energy that seemed to resist their every move. The closer they got, the more unstable the energy field became. The Perseverance shuddered, and the crew could feel the tug of the gravitational anomalies pulling at them. "Captain, the energy levels are spiking," Zane said from the tactical station. "We're about to breach the core's gravity well. We can't afford any more delays." If we don't act fast, we'll be pulled in and crushed. Mira clenched her fists, her mind calculating their options. They had no time to waste. She turned to Kieran. Get us as close as you can. We'll do the rest. Understood, Kieran said, his hands flying over the controls. We're going in. The ship dove deeper, cutting through the final layers of energy surrounding the heart of the void. Outside the ship, the light from the core was blinding, a swirling mass of pure energy that defied all understanding. It pulsed with a rhythm that seemed almost alive, as if the heart itself was breathing. As they drew closer, Mira could see it, floating in the center of the energy nexus. The heart of the void was a massive, swirling orb of raw energy. It was unlike anything she had ever seen. It seemed to shimmer and shift, its surface a kaleidoscope of colors that defied description. We're close, Kieran said, his voice filled with awe. I don't know how we're going to retrieve it, but we've made it this far. We have to try. Mira stood tall, her mind focused on the task ahead. She couldn't allow herself to be overwhelmed by the scale of what they were facing. This was it, the key to stopping the dragons. She had to take the risk. Humanity's future depended on it. Get ready, everyone, she said, her voice steady. This is our moment. We take the heart of the void, and we leave here with the power to save humanity. But as they prepared to make their move, a deep rumbling sound echoed through the ship, followed by a sudden, violent shift in the energy field. The Nexus had sensed their presence, and the heart of the void was reacting. It was calling to something, or someone. Myra's eyes widened as she realized the truth. They weren't alone in the rift.